So here I am at the machine. I've got my little lead in there, so I'm just going to go ahead and start sewing. Now you're going to sew at 1/4 of an inch. Again, this is an unconditional or untraditional way of doing a neck facing. So we're just going to use the edge of the foot and only sew 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And if we were doing the other type of facing, we would be turning up 1/4 of an inch. So it's the same amount, it's just we're doing it in a different way because we're sewing at 1/4 of an inch. So guiding with your fingers, not tugging, not pulling, not stretching, just steering around the curve, just guiding around the curve. And back stitch. So into my lead-in, keeps it from coming unthreaded too. All right, then you're going to go ahead, remove your pins, and now the next step is to turn the inner facing to the right or to the wrong side of the facing. So this is going to take a few minutes of fanoodling. All right, because we're going to come to the inside now. So I'm going to show you what to do, and then I'm going to take some time and let you, because basically you're going to just kind of roll it with your fingers to make sure all around the edge. So you want to roll it all the way out. You don't want anything tucked in. So to make sure that you're just rolling that inner facing just slightly to the inside so that you don't see it. But this will take you a few minutes to push it out. But you really just do it with your fingers, roll it with your fingers, and make sure you've got this all pushed out. And then we're ready to fuse. So go ahead and take a few minutes to do that. I'm not going to videotape as I go all the way around. So I have finagled and fanoodled until I have this edge pressed really nicely. And now I'm going to hand the camera to my husband, and I'm going to press. So what I've done is I've made sure that the inner facing is pressed all the way to the inside. And again, this is the right side of the inner facing. It doesn't have glue. So our facing is now right sides together. See how I see just a little bit of that blue edge? So in other words, I've got the inner facing turned just slightly in a little bit more. Now we're ready to press. We're going to be fusing now. And this is where you will probably want to use a press cloth. I should model good habits because I am one that does it. But this is where if you don't have that right sides together, you can really mess up your iron. And then you have to clean your iron. So you use a press cloth and then you really fuse that. You hold it down. Now, typically with the other type of interfacing, there we go. You never use steam. As long as I can see that okay, I can continue to fuse. You wouldn't use steam with the traditional fusible Pellon because the Pellon shrinks. So in a factory, they never use steam. They fuse with a dry, they're not using an iron. They've got machines that do that, but it would be dry. It wouldn't have steam. But I will tell you that with the tricot, you can use steam, and I love steam. So I've got the steam on, and I'm just pressing, but it doesn't shrink, so it doesn't hurt anything. All right, and the last section, I'm gonna go ahead and move that. You can see the edge there did stick to my press cloth or my pressing board a little bit, but it doesn't hurt anything. It's not fusing to the iron or anything like that. Okay, so press cloth. I'm using medium high heat, just medium, not high, because I've got a linen fabric. I could use high heat, but I didn't need to. Medium was fine. All right, and you can see that that is all fused and ready to go. Turn it over, show you what it looks like from this side. So this is the edge. So we do see a little bit of interfacing here. That's okay. We're going to be sewing this to the neck edge. Now it'll be in the seam allowance. But look how beautiful this edge is. So see, no top stitch. It's clean. It's lovely. And that's the way it'll look on the inside of the garment, just like that. All right, we are now ready to put the the facing right sides together with our dress. All right, so you're going to, it'll take a little time to pin this, but you're gonna pin, and typically I make a little notch at the center front, and I think I forgot to tell you guys to do that because I didn't do it myself. And that just helps to get started because you can line that little center front notch, you know, from the fold. But anyways, you wanna line up the shoulder seams and pin. So you can see now the facing is right sides together with the dress. And you'll just work around the curve, pinning the edges together, and make sure that your shoulder seams line up. And then work your way around the edge, pinning, pinning, pinning. And now we're ready to sew. So you can start and go all the way around the edge. I sometimes actually like to start at the shoulder seam just to make sure I do have those shoulder seams lined up. All right, so my lead-in didn't work here because I can't sew into this. I've got to go over here. We're gonna use the 1/2 inch. Remember I told you we were gonna change the seam allowance just a little bit. We're gonna use, actually, you could even use the 3/8 and then we don't have to trim much at all. Let's use 3/8. It won't hurt anything. That's what they would use in the factory. They would use a 3/8 or 1/4 of an inch. So we're gonna do it. It's just gonna raise the neckline a 1/4 of an inch. Big deal. Okay, so I'm using the 3/8 inch. And I started at the shoulder seam, but you can start all the way at the edge, but I just wanted to make sure that the front shoulder seams lined, or the shoulder seams lined up first. All right, now here, this is really important. Notice that I am steering like a car, steering around the edge. Steering around the curve, I should say. Trying to keep it on the 3/8. This is what you don't want to do. You don't want to stretch out that curve because then your neckline will gape. You have to drive, like you're driving a car, like this is a piece of paper, like the fabric is paper and it's stiff, and you're just driving around that curve. All right, now I'm going to continue all the way to the back. Oops, I didn't have that pin, thought I did. Driving around the curve. Making sure here, I gotta make sure my edges lined up. Now, this is good. The facing should come out past the edge of the, where we did zip. That's a good thing. So just let it come on out past. That's gonna give us something to turn back later to clean the facing next to the zipper. Back stitch and off. So I did 3/8 inch seam allowance. All right, now I've got to come back and finish this side. I'm going to go from this side this time. But now I know that my shoulder seams are matched up perfectly. I'm coming around that curve. Steering around the curve and then finishing, and see again, I've got a little extension of facing, which is a good thing. All right. my lead in off of there, but neck facing is on. And now we're ready to do some clipping.